said something to me when I came in, so I gotta start with a disclaimer. The book of Philippians, John, does not have 13 chapters. If you were here last time, some crazy person said Philippians 13:2.
I was just reading that book of Job.
Just read it.
Who was that guy?
So who was that? I don't know who that crazy person was. But back when we prepared for step 2, it was actually Philippians 2:13. Anybody remember what that verse is? For it is God who what? For it is God who works in you to will and act according to his good pleasure. That's Philippians 2:13. Step 2 said we came to believe a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity. Hi, my name is Jeff Riles, and I just might be that crazy person. I think I might have Bible dyslexia or something, John, where I get all my verses and things all scrambled up when I talk about them. So if I get them mixed up tonight, please take it easy on me. John, I'm sure John will say something. Anyway, good evening. Like I said,
blame it on John.
Blame it on John. My name's still Jeff Riles, and I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. And I struggle with pride, I struggle with resentment, and both of which have caused me to self-medicate with pornography. Tonight, we're taking our first look at step 4, understanding what step 4 is in Celebrate Recovery. Anybody know what that step is? Step 4?
Inventory.
Awesome. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And so here comes a Bible verse, and I hope I get it right for tonight. Let us examine our ways and test them, and then return to the Lord. Lamentations 3:40. And I really like that verse, because in that verse it has these 2 words that I really like. The first one is examine, and the second word is test. Now, my wife knows, but as a former teacher, I like examines and I like tests. So at some point tonight, a little bit, we're all going to take an exam and we're going to test it, because that's what Lamentations 3:40 says. Examine and test. Then return to the Lord. Now, don't run for the doors or excuse yourself to the bathroom when I tell you what this test is, because we're going to have a little bit of math fun.
Yay!
Yeah, thank you, Jules. Yay. Everybody should be happy. We're going to do some math. Now, the numbers I'm going to use are going to be single digits, so that means, John, that means it's less than 10. So 1 through 9, the numbers, so the numbers won't be hard for this test, okay? When we prepare for step 4 has, it talks about recognizing that there's a degree of denial that's still hanging on in us. Denial about some things that are in our life that we've protected and we haven't dealt with. In the 12-step process, it's not easy. And step 4 is particularly a challenging step. For me, you remember step 2 was the hardest. Because someone that's struggling with pride, coming to recognize that there is a higher power, smashes that pride. So step 2 was hardest for me on my 12 steps. But step 4 was the step that really got me going in the direction of recovery. Because step 4, I actually had to take a real deep look at myself. Because Lamentations 3:40 says, let us examine. And so I had to examine myself. And I know it's very easy sometimes, and I've heard people say it in here, and I've been in 12 steps, and I got to step 4, and I bailed. And then I started again, I got to step 4, and I bailed out. And I understand that, because it was really difficult for me once I got past step 2 to really examine myself. But there's a reason for it. There's this healing that we're all looking for. There's this change to our life that we're looking for. So, Please don't quit, especially when I use the word math tonight. Don't just bail, okay? You can get through this. I promise you, you'll get through it. Sometimes it's that most painful subject, right, that you deal with, that denial. Oh, I'm good at math. Okay. So we're about to see. Now, we're going to get the connection. Remember, the numbers are going to be single digit. So on your desk, everybody should have paper and pen. If you don't, grab a piece of paper and get a pen, because we're going to examine, so you actually need paper and pen to do this. Come on, Tim. You got this, man. I know you do. You can do this. Tony. Okay, sweet. Awesome. All right. So what I'm going to do for this exam is I'm going to present to you 3 numbers. And all you have to do is give me the 4th number. Okay? And you'll see it. It's easier if you write it down. If you write this down, it'll be easier. It really will be. So I'll get a piece of paper and a pen, and I'll give you the 3 numbers, and you just write the 4th number. It's real easy. Okay? Here we go. First number is 2. See, John, that's single digit. The next number is 4. The 3rd number is 6. So what do you think the 4th number is?
8. 10.
Of course, this John would say 10. We want no double digits, just single. Oh, yeah.
8.
8. Yeah. 2, 4, 6, 8. And when you write that down, who do we appreciate? You can see the pattern if you wrote it down. 2, 4, 6, 8. For those of you that kind of remember that those numbers are called the what type of numbers? 2, 4, they're the even numbers. Mm-hmm. And how do you go, if you examine it now, we're going to test, how do you go from one even number to the next? What math do you do? What do you do?
You add.
You add how much? You add 2, sure. Look at that. See, you guys got it. We get examined and you just pass the test. You just add 2. Okay, let's start again. I'm going to give you 3 numbers. You get this. You give me the 4th. The number is 1, 3, some of you already know, 5. Then the 4th number would be
7.
6.
7.
I always have to send someone to the principal's office, and here we go.
Here we go, right here.
There's one in every room.
There is always one in every. And those numbers are called the what type of numbers? Those are
Uneven.
The odd. Did you say uneven? Uneven numbers. Yeah, those are the odd numbers.
There you go.
And how do you move from one
Uneven.
odd number to the next? When you to test it, add 2. You add 2, just like the even numbers. Even numbers you add 2. The odd numbers. You add 2. Okay, final test. Real easy.
Uneven.
Uneven. Here we go. 3 numbers. Okay, 3 numbers. Easy, very easy.
Oh man.
Here comes the
this is
numbers.
crazy.
1, 2, 3.
4.
1, 2, 3, 4. Now, those of you that remember math, when I have numbers that we actually do 1, 2, 3, 4. That's called
Sequential order.
oh yeah, she's just smart. It's called counting. It's just simply counting, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4 are called the counting numbers. That's all they are. 1, 2, 3, 4. So hold on to those because we're gonna come back to that. But what you did, in a sense, is you just made an inventory. Because you examined and you tested and you actually wrote it down. Those of you that did write it down, you actually wrote it down. So you started with an inventory. And for some people, when you hit step 4, when you're actually having to write things down, it might feel like if you've been someone who's been abused. That writing this stuff down, bringing it back to your mind, is like you're being abused all over again. But you're not. You might feel that the step is too painful, or it's pointless, it's overwhelming, and you want to give up. Please know that you're needed here in CR. You're among family. And this is, as Rachel always liked to say in the beginning, a safe place. And so when you do your inventory, when you write your numbers, your even numbers, and your odd numbers, you'll have the opportunity to share those with other people. In step 4, we need to realize that there are areas of our life that need attention. And we can't see all of those areas. Again, some have been working 12 steps for a while. sometimes you want to bail, but don't. When it comes to making your inventory, write it down. Now that last pattern that we just had, the counting numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, the reason I like that pattern is because sometimes we're blinded by what's obvious. And we can't see new things emerging. So if you look at those numbers again, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, so I gave you the numbers 1, 2, 3, you came up with 4. I'm going to give you another pattern based on the same 3 numbers. And this is what an inventory, writing it down, does for you. Things that you've seen that might have been obvious, new things may emerge. So if I gave you the numbers 1, 2, 3, and now the 4th number is actually 5. Does anybody see a pattern there? It's not always easy to see, but when you write it down, it helps. There's a pattern there. Make an inventory. Lamentations 3:40 says, examine. So examine the numbers. Then test the new pattern. See why 5 is actually a good number in this pattern. Okay, so here it is. You take the first 2 numbers, 1 and 2, and you add them together, and what do you get? 3. That's the third. Then you take the second 2 numbers, 2 and 3, and you add them together, and you get 5. So if that pattern continued, the next number would be what? Anybody know? It would be 8. 4. So just writing down the same first 3 numbers, making that same inventory, you might see new patterns emerge when you write them down. Odd numbers and the even numbers of our lives. We've got the counting numbers. But keep in mind, when you make an inventory, when you're doing the 4th step, you're not changing anything. Nothing's really changing on this step, because an inventory is just a list. But that list is very important. The purpose of this searching, fearless, moral inventory is because there are certain things of confusion and contradiction of our lives that we can't always see, but they're really there. And we're starting a new way of life and need to be rid of some of the burdens, some of the traps that have controlled us, prevented growth. Step 4 will help move all of us towards recovery. More than you can imagine. Like I said, for me, it was the step that got me going in my recovery. I really did an honest moral inventory. And when you do, and you might find, like I found, I'm not as terrible as I sometimes think, but I'm also not as wonderful as sometimes I thought. I've got odd numbers, and I've got even numbers. And you might find a surprise when you start writing things down. You might find there's some good things about your life that you've forgotten about. So write them down. And if you ask some of the leaders here at CR, they'd probably tell you when it came to them working this step. The 4th step was probably a turning point in their lives also. But just ask them. Take some time and talk to somebody who's done the 4th step. As you're preparing to do your inventory, they can share with you what it meant to them to actually do your inventory. And sometimes when people approach this 4th step, as we're beginning to do this inventory, it feels like it's a confession of how horrible your life has been, how bad of a person I was. It felt like that, but it's really not about that. Please don't go there. Don't binge on that emotion. It's like watching a horrible Netflix show over and over, or what are you trying to make me watch here? They're called documentaries? They're wonderful. She wants to watch documentaries. Anyway, don't go there and binge that emotion over and over again, because that show has already had too many reruns in your life. It's not the purpose of the 4th step. We're trying to free ourselves from living old, useless patterns. Here comes my little fun Baptist preacher thing. I did have a rhyme in there somewhere. You can't get free if you don't make a list you can't see. That's right. What do you? Come on, that was good. I hope we get some favorable response to that. You can't get free if you don't make a list you can't see.
That's good.
It was good. Okay, 1, 2. Thank you, Kelly. Awesome. I got 2 favorable responses.
It's actually very good. The word.
What's that?
Is actually very good.
To be just a little bit more real, with Lamentations 3:40, remember what it says? It says, examine our ways and test them. And if you've worked steps 1, 2, and 3, and you're really ready for step 4, you might want to ask yourself something like my sponsor asked me. And he said, Jeff, what do you want out of your recovery? Because he said, it's not my recovery, it's yours, Jeff. Now don't say Jeff to yourself and you ask yourself this question, because you guys aren't Jeffs. Anyway, what do you want? And if you know my sponsor, it's really strange because this is one of the few moments working with him that he was actually quiet. He actually let me talk.
Did you take that?
I should have written that down on the calendar. And I don't quite remember what my response to him was, or exactly how he then responded, but I'm going to paraphrase as best I can what he said back to me. He said, Jeff, how can you present yourself as a sacrifice to God, because you know this is our acceptable service, when you don't even know who you are? That's what that inventory is all about. You need to find out who you are. So you may want to ask yourself the question like that. So step 4, it begins our growth on this journey. It is. And here we examine our behavior and expand our understanding of ourselves. This adventure of self-discovery begins with step 4 and continues on to step 7. During these next 4 steps, we'll prepare personal inventory, discuss it with others in the program, and invite God to remove our shortcomings. Being totally honest in preparing your inventory is vital to this self-discovery. It forms the foundation of our recovery. It allows us to remove the obstacles that prevented us from knowing ourselves and truthfully acknowledging our deepest feelings. As we begin to see ourselves and learn to accept the whole character, the good and the bad, the odd and the even numbers, the counting numbers, whatever it is that goes on your inventory, perhaps you have been abused. Perhaps you're the abuser. Maybe as a child, for you to survive, you had to lie and steal and cheat just to survive. But those behaviors, continuing those into adulthood, makes us dysfunctional. Preparing your inventory requires a look towards God for guidance. You see, we renewed our relationship with our higher power, who is Jesus Christ, in steps 2 and in 3. So ask him. You've got this new relationship with him. Ask him for help. Help with what? Well, making a searching and fearless moral inventory. Because that's step 4. The odd numbers and the even numbers put down on paper. So I'm kind of going to conclude with this thought. And I'm not sure how good you are at math, and the math was just a fun way to kind of introduce the idea of an inventory. But writing it down, that's what focuses our mind and our wandering thoughts. It allows us to concentrate on what's really happening. And finally, don't judge yourself. So what does Lamentations 3:40 say? It says, let us examine. It doesn't say judge. Then it says, let us test. It doesn't say judge. And then we return with all of that to the Lord.
Amen.
I'm going to close this in prayer.
Thank you.
Oh, dear God. The odd numbers and the even numbers in my life, they're mine. Some of these things have led to hurts, habits, hang-ups that I am powerless to change. Help me, Lord, to begin a searching and fearless moral inventory. Help me to write down my wrongs, but I'll also write down that which is good. I pray for strength to complete this task, to share my list with someone I trust, and ultimately return to you, my God and my Savior. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for letting
Good
me.
job, Jeff. Good job.